But the big news coming out of week 4 and into week 5 is John Mateer out probably a month. Hurt himself early in that win over Auburn and already did undergo surgery earlier in the week to address that hand injury. Brett Venables says the expectation is that he will be back at some point this season. That's not the question, I don't think, for Oklahoma fans. The question is just how long are we talking and what games will Mateer have to miss? They're lucky enough. They've got this weekend off, and then they get Kent State at home. But then it ramps right back up in Choppy's backyard with the Red River rivalry against the Longhorns. Then a trip to South Carolina. Who knows what that one may mean at that point with the Gamecocks already holding on to 2 L's. And then really down the stretch, it doesn't get any easier. Ole Miss, Tennessee, Bama, Missouri, LSU. So Choppy, since that Red River shootout will take place in your backyard, let's start there with the Mateer impact on the Sooners and the playoff picture for them. They're back on the plus side of the money as far as the CFP bet goes, anywhere between plus 125 and plus 150, depending on where you find them. But the way I look at it, if they can get through this stretch, only losing 1 or 2 of these games, again, depending on when Mateer comes back, maybe for the Ole Miss game, maybe not until Tennessee, I think they're still in a decent spot being in the SEC. If you're a 2-loss team and the 2 losses both happen with your starting quarterback out injured, I think you're going to have an advantage over some of those other 2-loss SEC or Big Ten teams trying to get in.
You might, because there's the unknown of what would have happened, had he stayed healthy. But, there's a trickle-down effect here, too. I mean, Texas is not going to get credit for a win over a healthy Oklahoma team, when they go play, if he misses the Red River game, which he's going to. So now Texas really has to beat Georgia. Or if they lose to Georgia, that's 2 losses. Now they're going to have a win over a banged-up Oklahoma team and Florida. That's not enticing to the committee. You got to hope for A&M to really run the table now. So it's a trickle-down effect, not just for Oklahoma, but for Texas as well, and anybody that Oklahoma plays, if Ole Miss plays them without Mateer. I mean, are they getting credit now for a win? Probably not. So it's definitely difficult, but this changes the national championship picture. It changes the playoff picture. It changes the Heisman. It changes all that. Like John Mateer has been the, if not the best quarterback, he's been in the discussion for the best quarterback in the country to start the year. And now we're sitting here and he's going to wind up missing games and Oklahoma's going to be in a tricky spot.
John, the top of the SEC was already as wide open as it's been in recent years. This kind of opens it up a little bit more, at least the speculation and to the trickle-down effect like Choppy was talking about. What about Oklahoma's playoff chances given their schedule? And again, like Choppy was talking about, the trickle-down to everybody else in the SEC.
Yeah, I mean, I think, they'll have time. They'll have time to, I think, keep those goals intact if he comes back, within a month. I think that's the key here. They're not going to beat Texas without him. There's no question about that. Like you said, at South Carolina, before the season started, we would have said no chance. But I think we feel a lot less good about South Carolina today than we did at the start of the season. So I think Oklahoma should look at this next 4-game stretch as we should go 3-1 here, and without Mateer. And if they do, and if they're able to do that, obviously everything that because while Texas won't get credit for beating Oklahoma won't get penalized, right? Like that's
right.
the upshot there. Is like they won't get penalized for losing games if they don't have John Mateer. So I still think they'll be, they won't be favored at South Carolina, but I think they should feel very good about winning that game. So obviously it's not what you want to hear, but it's certainly not season ending. And I don't really think it changes much about their playoff hopes. Now, SEC, that may end that discussion just because, one loss, could put you behind the 8 ball. But I definitely think their bigger picture goals are still intact.
Yeah, I do think it'll be interesting to see the rust factor that Mateer may or may not have when he comes back from this. It was a wholly different injury, but I think we saw a little bit of that rust factor, even though Lenora Sellers put up great numbers in that game against Missouri. Misses a few throws late, maybe not quite on point. same thing. If Mateer comes back and it's back for a trip to Knoxville and then Tuscaloosa the week after that, and then Missouri, and you wrap up against LSU, there are a few defenses in there that I don't want my quarterback fresh off an injury coming back against, Choppy.
No, you don't. But when you have a quarterback who and Mateer is, and the way the position in general is, there's not as much timing today as there once was, right? It used to be everything was in rhythm. Now you got a lot of improvisation. You got guys thrown off schedule. I think it's easier to come back from an injury and play like you never missed a beat today in football more than it was, even 10 years ago. So I think it'll be okay. The tough part's going to be is you're going to have road environments. You're coming back to a road environment, and you haven't played a ton of road environments. I got to look at this. I don't think they've played a true, real road game anyway. And then if your first road environment is if it's in Knoxville, I mean that's a tough place to play. If it's in the Red River game is not a road environment. It's an awesome scene, awesome. But it's different, right? So he's gonna miss. He would miss that, and that's a big spot to miss because that's a half road environment. At least it's something to get used to. Those first road game of the year always scares you.
John, how are you feeling about Michael Hawkins Jr. taking over for a few weeks for Mateer and how it changes what Oklahoma wants to do on offense? Obviously, Mateer is also their leading rusher.
Yeah, I don't know that you can simulate that. I think no matter who it is, I think because how important and just heliocentric. There you go, RJ. $2 word.
Look at that. Google that one.
How heliocentric that offense is, right? It's kind of like you asking me about Michael Hawkins Jr. replacing John Mateer. It's kind of like asking, how is Gary Payton II going to replace Steph Curry? It's like I don't know, man. Your hope is that he's just serviceable enough. He doesn't turn the ball over, doesn't make mistakes, and just kind of runs the offense. But there's no replacing John Mateer. Like let's be clear about that. Like you're not going to do everything that he brings to the team. It's not possible. So it's just survival. That's what the next 4 games is about for the Oklahoma Sooners.
There was an obvious move.
Why do I feel like heliocentric is a word that Bill Simmons would use? I just think that's something that he would say.
Yeah, that's a big. That's a big. I'm gonna prove how smart I am. Word.
No, it's more like what it means is for those out there who are unfamiliar. It's kind of like the sun, right? The sun. It's sort of everything orbits around it, right? And yes, John Mateer is the son of the Oklahoma offense.
Okay.
All
right. I think I got that.
Work it in.
Yeah, I'll see if I can use it later today and confuse some people like you just confused the hell out of me and Choppy. Updated Heisman numbers, though. All of a sudden, Fernando Mendoza is the favorite, plus 650. You got Carson Beck right there as well as Mateer drops all the way down the board behind a few other big names. And I don't know if this necessarily puts me fully Choppy in the Fernando Mendoza camp. I know he had a great game against Illinois. I don't know what we think of Illinois now, though. The numbers for the season are great, but they haven't played anybody really aside from Illinois. 14 touchdowns, no interceptions. Who are some of the other names? Because it feels like the Heisman race is wide open once again as well.
Sure. Look, I think you got to throw Carson Beck in there. I know he's like right there near the top of that. I actually think what Gunnar Stockton, if they wind up going undefeated, he is going to have quite a little bit of thing to say about it. What happens with TCU and Josh Hoover? That's another situation that you got to keep an eye on. But Miami is going to be in a position to be in the playoff. That puts Carson Beck squarely in the Heisman running. It really does. And I don't know. I was just thinking that what this does for the national championship and the playoffs and obviously what it does with with some of these other teams and like I said, the trickle down effect. But you brought up Illinois and you don't know what they are either. And that last weekend in college football with the Illinois loss, I mean, that is exhibit A on just getting rid of these preseason rankings because we had them so high. Indiana's going to get a boost now for beating a top 10 team that probably wasn't a top 10 team. Top 10 teams don't lose by 53. So, I mean, I don't care where the game's played. They don't lose by 53 points. So, like, it's a trickle down.
Yeah, I'm still curious to see how Indiana handles things the rest of the way too. They've still got some defenses on their schedule that are going to be a whole lot better than anything Mendoza has faced to this point, including games against Iowa and Oregon coming up. Speaking of Oregon, and we'll get to the whiteout game in Happy Valley in just a couple minutes between the Ducks and the Nittany Lions. John, I don't hate their quarterback, Dante Moore, at 10-1 right now as a Heisman candidate. He's put up some numbers through the first few games. Again, we can talk about the schedule through the first 4 weeks for Oregon. Hasn't been that stiff. But if he goes to Happy Valley and has even a decent game against that defense, I think he's got a good chance to get his number dropped as well. And right now, it's probably as long as it's going to get at 10-1. If you believe in Dante Moore and Oregon taking off, maybe you believe in them this week against Penn State, it's probably a good spot to jump in on him.
Yeah, totally. I mean, if you're one of those people that's betting Oregon this weekend, you should certainly believe that 10-1 on the Heisman for Dante is good. I don't. I think Penn State wins this weekend. I'm bold and brave and courageous as the home minus 3.5 point favorite. But I think a guy like Gunnar Stockton, who is going to be quarterbacking a Georgia team that'll be right there in the end. I think 14-1 makes a lot of sense to me. I have no problem with Carson Beck. I don't think if you're betting Fernando Mendoza to win the Heisman at this point, you should probably not be betting the Heisman market. He's not winning it, and even if he does win it, you're betting into the absolute worst price. So yeah, it would be more Stockton. We'll take a 30-1 flyer on Aller if you think Penn State's real. That makes sense to me too.
Yeah, and that would be another one that you would want to get ahead of before maybe Aller actually puts some things together against Oregon this weekend, if you believe in Aller still being a legit Heisman contender. Nussmeier's number has dropped now to the point where if you weren't in on him earlier and you still think he can put some numbers up this year, if you're talking about an SEC team who's going to go to the playoff, that would be a look. I'd even throw Josh Hoover out there. As a long shot dark horse. It's 15-1. You could find a little bit better price if you shop around, Choppy, but that would be another name I'd throw out there if you're looking for someone different in what, again, is a wide open Heisman field right now.
Totally wide open. I mean, you got anybody that's going to be a good team, any quarterback of a good team, I think you have to put in play. Hoover's done a great job. He's done a great job this year. Reed's done a good job as well. Like, again, any team that's going to wind up having 1 or 2 losses, you could throw in there to make a strong case for the Heisman, especially if they're in the 15 to 30-1 range. I mean, it's just good value. I mean, throw $10 on it. I mean, if you got Aller at 30-1, I mean, it's $10. It's nothing. Just throw it down there.